Hey guys, I'm Jackie Brubaker, host and author of That Girl the Podcast, where each week we talk about the coming of age at any age. That Girl the Podcast is based on That Girl the novel, which is on Amazon to download, listen to, or buy the paperback of. You can also follow us on Instagram at That Girl the Podcast and our Patreon page. All right. Oh my gosh.
Take some cleansing breaths.
Yes. Lead us through it. Or some yawns.
Or a yawn.
Exciting. Yay. All right, guys. Welcome. This is your mic. You get to speak into it. I get to speak into it. Hello. See, there we are. There's our face and our sound. Welcome to the That Girl, the podcast, episode 2, chapter 2. I'm with my good friend, Stephanie Hamadto.
Hi.
She is a hairstylist extraordinaire. She knows a lot about things. And we're just going to talk about the chapter, but we're also just going to talk about life.
Totes.
So, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I love this.
I know. I'm so excited that you're here. Stephanie and I did some work together on her amazing program. She has 2 incredible personal power programs. One is called Hairdress Success, and it's actually for hairdressers.
That's
to,
right. Mm-hmm.
You know what? Actually, you pitch it.
Oh, well, Hairdress Success is a business acceleration course for hairdressers who are wanting to grow and build their business. And then the second course is Personal Power, which is for anyone looking to elevate their life and their vibration and lean into the best version of themselves.
And it's amazing. I worked with her on these videos, and I was just like, this is gold. Like, this is just so good. No, I'm just being honest. I really am. So let's just dive into chapter 2.
Sure.
Tell me your thoughts, and we'll start there.
First, I know we're going to talk about chapter 2, but I have to say chapter 1 was so juicy, and I loved it, and I was so excited. And chapter 2 I also super loved, but I can tell I purposely didn't listen ahead because I don't want to jump ahead before our episode, but I'm so excited to finish the rest of the story because I can tell it's going to be full of juice and real juice because we've worked in entertainment, and so some of the stuff that you're referring to, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's totally how it is.
It is. Chapter 1 is so raw. Chapter 2 gets a little bit more into the music industry. So chapter 2 starts with the lead going to see a band, and she's mentioned this drummer that she hooked up kind of with the night before, and she's going to go meet her friend Ryan, who is a very important music manager, and they've been friends for a long time. So actually, let's just start there. So Ryan will become a very big character in this book.
Oh.
So what were your kind of feelings about Ryan and everything?
Okay, so I got the friend vibes, maybe a little bit friend-zoned vibes. I know they had touched on the fact that they had dated in the past, but that it felt very sibling-ish.
Definitely.
So I can't really tell if there's going to be major chemistry between them or if they just have a really good friendship. But I do feel, she was kind of vibing the drummer in the chapter.
I mean, what girl isn't vibing the drummer?
Always the drummer.
It is all. I've dated so many drummers.
Yeah, I don't know what it is.
It's the hair. It's the swinging hair. I give the drummer the swinging hair
and the swag, and
and
they're kind of mysterious. They don't necessarily always they're not in the forefront of the
true,
band.
They are
mysterious.
They're mysterious. Yeah, they're very cool. Just playing the drums in the back, and you're like, hi.
So it totally brought me back to the Roxy days and going and vibing the drummers and all of that.
Oh gosh, the Roxy. Yeah, what I said in the book, going to the Roxy just felt so grimy and dirty and old, and I'm like, this is a legendary place, but it just felt kind of gross. And I'm like,
well, it makes you look back in hindsight. Was the Roxy always that grimy, even when we were in high school, or
I don't know.
Is it through adult eyes? You're like, this is a little grimy.
Well, I never went during high school because I was a theater nerd, so I never did anything cool.
Yeah.
I waited till my 20s to do all of the stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Clearly.
I wish I could say the same.
No, I know. Actually, we went to school kind of close to each other and both had a show choir background.
That's right. We were competitors.
Our
show choirs were
girl, choir.
Yeah.
We had like the same choreographer. So it was like, how could you give them that and then give us this?
I know, we totally always felt like our choreographer gave you guys the best choreography.
They did. That's why we won everything.
We're totally rooting for you guys to win.
I'm just going to like call out to my show choir, Powerhouse from Burroughs High School in Burbank, California, the one that wins everything.
Heartbreakers all the way.
Sure. Anyway.
Heartbreaker forever.
Powerhouse.
And Sound Vibes. I was not good enough for Sound Vibes. But Sound Vibes love you too.
Can you believe that these nerds became
the cool cats that
really
we are.
cool people? We became into really cool
so
people.
Cool.
I think you should always befriend the nerds in high school. Where were you in high school? Because I don't remember. Well, high school was a very interesting journey for me. But I don't even know if I was cool or if I wasn't, or if I was like my own orbit of person.
I feel like we were samesies in that department because I was not uncool, but I wasn't necessarily hanging out in the quad with like the cool kids. I was kind of friendly with everybody, but I had my own like core group of people that I hung out with.
Yeah.
Some were in show choir and some were not, and we've pretty much stayed friends over the years. So
right. I know. I'm actually friends with a few girls that I, went to school with. One, in fact, is going to be on the show soon, and I haven't seen her since high school. And I was like on Facebook, I'm like, would you like to do a podcast?
Serious?
Yeah,
that's so cool.
Yeah, I just confirmed her today, so I'm like, wow, this is going to be an interesting catch up. Something years later,
like 5 years later.
5 years later, I'm only 22. Anyway, I'm still living my 20s.
We're on a show.
We're on a show. So, cool. So, okay. So going back to Ryan, that was a big tangent.
Sorry.
Actually, let's not. No, that wasn't your fault. Let's go into how did you suddenly feel over your 20s? So, like, we get out of high school, we do all the crazy stuff in our 20s, which you can totally talk about, and I will totally talk about, and you're just going to read about. But yeah, like, when did you start feeling like, I'm sort of over this?
I would say around 30. I had my first daughter when I was 29 and a half, so I feel like
I got no time.
Yeah, so like my 30th birthday, I remember, was at the Standard, like, rooftop downtown situation. And it was great, but it was like that moment where you're like, I'm old. Like, I am no longer, like, I don't know. I just felt very out of place a little bit. Like, I'm not as cool as I used to be. Maybe I was never that cool, but
I know. I like. All right, so this is how I felt forever. I felt like somehow I always ended up with the cool people, and I was really confused how I got there. Like, I would be at some cool party or some cool gig or hotel, really just so many different hotel rooftops is basically where I feel like I spent most of my 20s, that or like a bar. And I was like, how did I end up with like these people? And they're not bad, but I was like, I don't know how I got here. And I only feel like maybe I got there because I was nice, and they were like, you're kind of cool, like, as in, like, you're just a nice person. I don't know. I didn't feel that cool.
Well, you are cool, and you're nice, and you're talented, and
this was
beautiful,
not a fishing kind of thing.
Well, no, but seriously, you don't give yourself enough credit. I mean, you have a lot.
She is my life coach, actually.
Not true. I feel like we life coach each other.
We do life coach each other, actually. We have these epic long phone calls, like, every few days, just to be like, hey, it's 8 o'clock in the morning. We're both awake. Let's talk about the life. Like, let's talk about the universe, really.
Yeah, let's talk about all the things.
Right. But so did you ever feel like you started getting cool at like a certain age?
I think in my early 20s, I think high school is when most of us, I certainly felt super insecure, always felt like I, wasn't pretty enough or wasn't cool enough or whatever. But then after high school, I feel like everything shifted, and all of a sudden everyone liked me and guys liked me, and
guys really like her. Let me just say this real quick. So we're talking on the phone, and she's like in the car talking to me, and she's like, ugh, do you ever have a guy just like, what did he do? Did he kissy face you?
They like kiss you on the freeway. They're like, and you're like, ugh, like, I feel violated right now.
Right. So she's like, ugh, don't you hate that? I'm like, I've never had that happen in my life.
Looking. She's just not looking out the window.
No, I've just never had that happen. So, no, guys love you. It's like, but this is what you said to me, and it's very true. You radiate this, like, power and happiness and beauty, and it's like gravitational force, pull towards that. So, yeah.
Well, thanks.
I'm just now coming into my gravitational pull.
Yeah, well, you're pretty awesome, so... I just come over here so she can give me all the compliments.
And then I can just give them back. We're really good at this.
Anyway,
okay,
so Ryan?
Let's go back to Ryan. Yeah, let's talk about Ryan.
Okay.
Yeah, like feelings. So did you ever have a boy? I already know the answer to this. Did you ever have a guy that you were really close with and you're like, we should date? And then maybe you did try dating or you didn't, but there was like something missing there?
Sure.
All right.
There may have been a Mike.
There's always a Mike.
Always a Michael. I hope by this point of the episode my husband has stopped watching. So, and
Probably.
If not, I'm very sorry. I love you.
It was a long time ago.
It was
though.
a long time ago, and it would maybe some things happened, and it just wasn't meant to be. We were best friends for years. We hung out for years. I feel like. He was a good guy. Like, nothing against him.
They're always really good guys.
Really good guy, but like you said, that thing wasn't there. Like, if it was going to happen, it would have happened earlier on in our friendship, but...
Can I tell you something amazing my dad said to me yesterday?
Yes.
So, my dad, I hope you're watching, my dad and I were really, really spiritual, and we're very similar in a lot of ways. And so, I asked him, Dad, how did you fall in love again without being terrified when he was dating my stepmom? Because he and my stepmom married after 30 days of knowing each other.
Wow.
They just celebrated their 28th wedding anniversary. They're actually soulmates.
Aww.
My dad referred to her as his twin flame yesterday. It's the first time he's ever said that. I was like, I didn't even know you knew what that was.
Aww.
Yeah, no, I mean, they really are incredible role models. But I asked, how did you fall in love again without being terrified? Because once you have been burned many, many times, it is really scary to really let your heart be vulnerable and let someone hold it in their hands and be like, please don't hurt this.
Yeah.
So I asked him, and he said, in his wise sage voice, really, he was like, you need to just stop overthinking, stop over-analyzing everything, and just listen to what your heart is actually saying, because your souls are, again, my dad is that guy, your souls are communicating, and it's between you and this person and the universe and you or God, depending on what you subscribe to, and that's it. Because all the stuff that might not line up, it has to be a little bit in line, right? It can't just be like all over the place. Like, you've got to have stuff in common, but the stuff that maybe isn't quite in line can kind of be, you can really kind of love that person enough to respect it. And I've definitely been in relationships, one in particular, where I just couldn't get there because I just didn't have that kind of unconditional love.
Right.
Where in something else, I absolutely have. So, wink. Anyway, so I thought that was so brilliant. Like, just follow your heart. Just listen to that and just take off everything else. And I think with these friendships, it makes so much sense logically. Like, oh, I should really be with this person. And I've definitely had this situation, and it's hard because, like, I'm a really logical, well, you know me. I don't need to tell you. I'm a really logical person, and I'm like, let me put a spreadsheet together and tell you exactly what she
the pros and the cons and which ones
let me
outweigh
just
each other.
wait too long to figure it out. And that's what my dad said was so simple. It was like, stop. Just stop. What is your heart saying?
Yeah.
Because absolutely that love that you have for someone that you don't have for someone else that might be perfect on paper, or your best friend that, gosh, you wish you could get there with, it's like that love is going to get you through the worst of times. And you've been married for quite some time now, and you have children.
I'm like, I don't know, what is it, 12 years, 8 years, somewhere around there.
She's been a long time. All my friends have been married forever, and I'm like, not. So I guess I had to learn some stuff.
And I think that, do you remember of course you remember, but what was your biggest heartbreaker? Like, how old were you, or?
Oh, which one?
Like your biggest, like the first one that comes to mind.
Yeah, I was like 25.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I feel like when you do the pros and the cons and, should this work or not, I feel like that's a little bit of your broken heart trying to make sure that that doesn't happen again. And it's, like telling you like danger, danger, warning, warning. And it can be such a fine line because on one hand, you don't want to overlook red flags.
Right.
And fall for the wrong person who's
Right.
definitely going to do something terrible. But at the same time, you want to be so guarded that you don't open yourself up to love. And like that's why they say
Right.
the bars that we put up to protect us end up being the prison that we live in, kind of a thing.
Absolutely.
So I think your dad's right. I think sometimes it's about just being like, well, whatever happens, happens.
And I think too, in our 20s, it's really difficult to feel this yet. I mean, everybody's different, but I think it's difficult to feel this sort of confidence and power that you start to feel in your 30s and beyond, especially. And you doubt yourself and you don't listen to your gut. So those red flags come up, but you're like, oh, I'm scared. Well, maybe I need to take a risk. And it's like, no, that was your gut saying, no, that's not a good idea. Whereas, like when you start getting into like your 30s and beyond, you're more like, hopefully, you've been through some stuff and you've learned some stuff. You actually start to feel like, no, my intuition is like, this is a good situation, but my trauma from beyond is coming up and it's freaking me out. So I also heard something great the other day too. I probably already told you all this, but for you guys watching, is that if you aren't sure of what to do in a situation, if you feel panic and you feel fear and you feel doubt and all of the confusion, that is not your higher self talking.
Truth.
That is your ego talking because your ego does live in a place of fear and material and just trying to keep you lower and like a lower vibration. Again, whatever you subscribe to.
Yeah.
Basically, it's just trying to keep you safe, which is good.
Sure.
But if you are coming from a place of, I feel fine, like easy, like don't have to think about it, like that, even if it's a difficult decision, that's your higher self coming through and being like, it's okay.
Totally. Well, I think that we tend to hear our anxious voice and our excited voice much louder than we hear our intuition. And I think what you're describing, the calm that you're feeling or hearing or whatever, is your intuition guiding you. I don't know, like you said, like whatever you subscribe to.
Everybody's welcome.
Yeah, but our anxiety is so loud. And it'll be like, warning, warning, danger. And so it's easy to go based on those loud messages. And then our excitement is like, oh my gosh, he likes me and he's so cute, and so that's also a very loud voice.
Absolutely.
And so sometimes it's hard to drown out those voices and get into like your higher self, your intuition, and what's best for you. And what's best for you often is like the thing that you don't always think is the right thing, Sometimes it tricks you or it's confusing.
Right, and I think, I certainly struggle with that where I'm like, well, I really like this. But do I want this? Is this right for me? And it's, I certainly at this moment struggle with a lot of just trauma versus this person's not a good person. It's more like, no, I'm just scared shitless.
Yeah,
that's it.
Totally.
Good talk. Keep
One
going.
last little detail on that
more.
point. But when the trauma comes up from past relationships and heartbreaks and things like that, when you've been disappointed or hurt or whatever it is, remind yourself also that you made it through. And I don't know if this is true for everyone, but, if it happens again, I feel like the sting is less every time. Like heartbreak, in my opinion, is always the worst, the first major heartbreak.
Absolutely.
And then after that, like you get used to like breakups are hard and they suck and I'm going to cry for a while, but I'll be okay. I think the first time it happens, it's like, you don't believe you're going to be okay. It's like your world has just crumbled.
Oh, no, I did not. When I was 25, oh my God, I was a mess. I was a mess. Like, he was a good guy, too. We were together for years, and, like, I was just brokenhearted, and I really felt like, that's it. why am I here? Life is over.
No one's ever going to love me like that. I'm never
Yeah.
going to meet someone, like whatever. That's the message from the first heartbreak. But then once you go through it a few times, you're like, okay, it sucks. It's hard. I'm very emotional and very sad. It's hard to feel those emotions, but you at the same time know it's going to be okay. So it's easier to, at some point, trust again and go into another relationship. So
Right. Such good wisdom. Such good wisdom. Okay. When did you start letting go of your fear of missing out?
FOMO. Oh, I feel like sometimes I still have FOMO. But not as much, for sure. You know, again, well, I think I had the strongest FOMO after I had babies, so like around 30.
That's a hard time too, because like it's the right time societal-wise to have kids, but it's also like, whoa, I just started feeling like a woman, and I'd like to do more things.
Well, and I definitely lived up my 20s. Like, I traveled, I partied, I did all the things, knowing I would probably partied hard. Not gonna lie.
I love when she tells these stories. I'm like, who are you? You are such a
because I don't
sweet...
seem like it.
No.
Yeah, I'm a rebel inside.
She's that girl.
But so I think that was hard for me because I was the first in my friend circle to have kids, and so everyone else was still able to like, let's go grab drinks, let's go here, let's go there, and I was like, I'll see you in 3 months, maybe, you know. So that was hard for me to kind of accept that, like, maybe we were in different places in life, and that they were still able to like have fun and do all the things, and I was in a different place. But I feel like it took like a few years to really kind of feel like okay with that. I think it's also helped that like some have started having kids, and so I don't feel like everyone I know is out having fun every night of the week kind of a thing.
Well, especially now, no one's having any fun at all.
COVID. I stopped having FOMO when COVID hit.
Right.
No, I'm just kidding. I don't mean to make light of COVID. But.
No one's making light of COVID. Just honest.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, in this chapter, you know, I talk about her looking around, just feeling like, kind of over this. I kind of just want to go home. Like, Frasier sounds great. And there were years of Frasier and Seinfeld and like Sex and the City where I was like, I am much more
happier.
Into this.
Totally.
I would much rather stay home for this. Especially working all day and then going out. I was like,
that's true. Mm-hmm.
It's a Tuesday. Why? Why?
But how old were you when you started having that shift?
I honestly started feeling it around 28.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was a little younger, I think. I was just really burning out, and it's just everything in my world, because I was in the music industry, everything started at like 10 o'clock at night. And I was like, I can't do this every day. I'm going to work on a show every day, and then I have to go out at night, and then I'm out and I'm drinking, and then I have to wake up the next day with like my hangover hat and like go to work.
Oh my gosh.
It was a lot.
Yeah.
You'll read it. So yeah, I just kind of started feeling, well, also it's like, you know, in the book she talks about like holding a drink, looking around and just being like, what is this worth? Like, what is this getting me? And that's how I was feeling too. I was just like, I don't know if this is really working anymore. Right. And someone a long time ago said something to me I thought was brilliant, was even in the music industry, business happens on business hours. And I started really taking that seriously. I'm like, what kind of business is going to happen at 11 o'clock at night after I just watched some bands? Like, yeah, I'm a writer. Yeah, I'm an artist. I'm like, you know, here to like do the hang that we do. But like, honestly, if something's really going to get done, it's going to be scheduled, and I'm going to show up. And so that's when I started getting like, I don't really want to go. And my friends in the industry were like, come out. And I'm like, but why? Like, it's not benefiting me at this point.
Right.
So.
Good boundaries.
Thanks. Yeah, I was starting to find boundaries. Like, little by little, I was like, I'm just going to stay on the couch. Like, I really do remember kind of the beginning of that happening. And I was, like, all curled up on the couch, just exhausted. And I was like, no.
Yeah.
Done. Yeah.
Well, I don't know if it's like a physical thing or what, but I feel like your early 20s, you just have unlimited energy.
Oh my God.
So you're like, of course I want to work a 10-hour day and then party all night and then wake up early. It's like, it's just the energy is never ending. And then at some point it catches up to you.
Oh, yeah.
And you're like, I no longer want to do that. Like, there's not this adrenaline rush after years of doing it that you get for that second wind or whatever.
No.
But speaking of the drinks at the bar in this chapter, I felt both entertained and called out. There's a line where it's like a mom brought her teenager to the show, and she's at the bar ordering this like pink frothy drink, and kind of like reliving her memories from when she was younger. And I was like, oh my god, that's totally me.
I know.
I'm totally the mom at the bar that's like, give me a Cosmo.
Sarah Jessica Parker drank and I drink it too. I had a very special bartender friend at the Standard. Maybe you knew him. Maybe
totally
you knew him.
Knew
He was so gorgeous. He was my friend. And I was like, please just take me home at this point. He would make me these pink frothy drinks that were delicious. I don't know what they were. It was like pineapple juice and like cranberry juice and like vodka and champagne or grenadine or something.
All
it was
the things.
so good. Oh my god. And I was just like down these. I was very drunk most of the time. And then like somewhere around 28, my body was like, we don't like drinking anymore at all. Like, yeah, like wine, everything. Like now I drink so little. It's so sad. I really miss I don't really miss drinking, but I miss the social aspect of being like, let's share a bottle of wine together. And like, no, I'll have like a 4-ounce pour.
That's why they made White Claws. They're like, just so you can pretend like you're drinking.
Right.
There's like almost no alcohol.
There's no alcohol. It's a soda kind of.
It's like 1 calorie. So
Yeah, that's actually, they're fantastic.
We are not being paid.
We're
by
not.
White Claw, by the way.
But if you'd like to pay us White Claw, we are more than happy
We're
to take
happy to take
your money.
Anything, yes.
Yeah, that is so true. I mean, we're those ladies. We're those women now.
We are young at heart.
We are young at heart. We look good for our age. All right. If you knew how old I was, you'd be like, "What? You're 52?"
Say what?
Just kidding. I'm not that.
I know the other line that called us out was when it said, let's see, she switched to Diet Coke because she's 32 and old. I'm like, if 32 is old, what am I?
I know, but it was true. I was like, it's too much sugar. I was like, only diet now. Oh my God, yeah,
32.
no.
It's all downhill from there.
It is. Sorry, 32-year-olds. Have a good time this year.
33-plus-year-olds.
Right. 33 is a weird age, too. 33 is not like an exciting age. Neither is really 32, but at least like kind of interesting. 32, 33, such a weird time in your 30s because you're still like close to your 20s, but not quite. And then at 33, you're almost like kind of considered mid-30s, but you're like, how? No. And then after 35, it's just like gone.
Yeah, I was going to say, I feel like 30 through 33 is like, I still feel 20-something. Mm-hmm. And then 34 for me is when it hit. And I was like, oh my gosh, I need Botox. Like, what just happened to my face?
Oh my God, I love when you first got Botox. It was such a cute day. You were like, look.
Trying to raise my eyebrows, like, I can't move it. I can't move it. Look at this.
Now I miss Botox so much.
I know, I need it.
No, you don't. We actually
not
really
need,
don't
but I
need
would
it.
really
It would be
prefer to
nice.
have some.
On those really tired days, I'm like, gosh, I wish I had something to like, just wake me up.
But yeah, so for me, 34 was when it like
All
happened.
right. Well, at least it's, kind of ended a little bit later for you.
So, also going back to the first chapter.
Yeah, we can talk about the first chapter. Let's do it.
I just loved the scene of her in the makeup room and the talent that she's working on is like checking herself out in the mirror. And it's like, thanks. And she like doesn't even look at the main character who like did her makeup. Oh, thanks. Like,
right. Just to herself.
Just brings me back.
I know, when you used to work. It is pretty brutal how you feel invisible. So I was on a show, the one that I basically wrote this on. Mm-hmm. And I really did feel actually invisible to the point where we filmed at a major studio, which I will not name, or anything about anything. But there's a huge hallway where, like all the shows were like walking through and sets were going through. And even when there was like really nobody around, I would just be walking down the hallway and like, seriously, like a few people would like run into me and it's not like they weren't looking. They really didn't see me. And I have this theory I sound like such a woohoo, like a woo-woo person today. I am, though. I am.
I'm with her.
We've got crystals. We're ready. I've got a crystal here. It's like everywhere. But I really sort of like realized, because the people were like, oh my God, I didn't even see you. I'm like, I know. I felt you run into me. But it kept happening, or like I would be in a room and people would be like, oh, I didn't know you were there. And I'm like,
I've been sitting right here
for hours.
Yeah.
And it's just, I almost feel like we can do that energetically when we're not happy and when we're really depressed and we're not where we're supposed to be, we can actually kind of become invisible. And my mom has a story, when we've talked about this, she worked on a show as a makeup artist, and she came in the room, something happened, and then I think she left, and then she came back in, and someone was like, oh, Gail, the funniest thing happened, blah, 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 blah. My mom was like, yeah, I saw it. And he's like, no, you didn't. You weren't here. Like, he didn't see her. And I'm like, is this like a supernatural power my family has? Do we have the gift of invisibility? But it was so creepy, because I think there is, I really feel like there's something to it.
I can see that. I can see how we can like shrink ourselves to not, and like kind of not be noticed. But I have a different take on it as it pertains to like entertainment, because the majority of my professional career has been in the salon, and it's a very different vibe working on clients behind the chair. They're
Definitely.
just so lovely, and they're just so happy, and they love you, and you love them, and you share about everything in each other's lives, and it's just this very special connection between a hairdresser and a client. So when I segued into entertainment and working on talent, it's a very different experience. And I think that you touched on it in your first chapter, when they said something about not wanting to look too pretty.
Oh my goodness.
Because the egos of the talent might get ruffled. And I have a memory in the very beginning, like, my first couple months working on set. And it was the first time I had felt confident and like happy, and I was having a great day. And everybody was talking to me that day. And therefore, it's the first and only time that the talent ripped me a new one. And it was one of those, I was like, whoa, like as soon as the attention and focus of limelight is not on them, they do not all, like it's not fair to say all.
Yes, let's preface that it's not all of you.
There are some lovely people that I have worked on, but
definitely people that I'm friends with, you know who you are, we're still friends, I still love you, it's okay, I'm not talking about you.
Sure. But there are some, I should say, that, like when you're looking good, feeling good, and getting the attention, they're not about that.
No.
I'm like, I never had witnessed that before. So when you mentioned that in the first chapter, I'm like, that is exactly how it is. You do not want to overshadow. It's like wearing white to a wedding. Like you do not want to be the prettiest one in the room. Not that I'm like the prettiest one in the room, but you know what I mean? You don't want to be.
You don't want to shine, basically. Yeah. There was a time where I was extremely unhappy on a show, and it was kind of towards the end of sort of when I was like, I can't do makeup much longer. I just can't do this. And I was starting to think about like getting into something else and like what else could I do. And I was so miserable, and I didn't even know how bad it was. But I showed up to my mom's house to like, I don't know, get something or maybe have dinner or something like that. And she looked at me, and I looked so unrecognizable, again, like invisible. I had like my hair in this awful ponytail and like no makeup. I looked super pale and like just like blah clothes, like grays and whatever. I just looked so homeless, really. I just looked really homeless. And she's like, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. She's like, you're not okay. And she still tells me that to this day. She's like, I will never forget when you started to lose it. Like, that was it. Because, like, for me, it was, I had just, I think, put out my second record, and it was a really shitty time. I had a publisher, and they weren't doing anything for me, and I put out my record, and I just was like, what's the point of working on this show if, like, I'm sacrificing to work on the show and making like nothing, and then I'm like not even seeing like my record do well or my publisher care about me, and I was like, what am I doing? And I was just really at my lowest, and I started to crack at work, and I actually did crack at work.
What did that look like?
You'll read about it.
Oh, see, it is so juicy.
You will read about it. Yes,
excited.
it is juicy, and it was really good because you'd kind of. I think everybody needs to be able to shine, and it's not in a like huge way. It's like important to just be authentically you. And in this industry, unfortunately, and this is not just hair and makeup, it is throughout. It's very hard to do that because A, you're working as a team. B, there isn't time, and C, people are tired and just trying to get their work done. So it's like. You're like a part of the what is it? A part of the wheel, the cog, or you're part of the machine.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so you do get kind of lost, but in knowing that, you do lose yourself, and then that just wears you down, and it's really difficult. And so when I finally did leave, I was just like, never again. Like, I can't. And I obviously did do some makeup for years, balancing, but that's when I started getting into producing and writing. And thank God.
Well, I feel like you're such a good example of like why we talk about leaning into your intuition and stepping into your full potential and whatever that is for you, because there are so many people out there that if they were working and paying their bills from doing makeup and had 2 Emmys and all the things that you've accomplished on that side of your life, that would feel like they have arrived. Like, this is it. I have Emmys. I work full time in makeup, all those things. And for you, that was so the opposite. You were like, this is not where I want to be. This is not. And that's why it's so important that we listen to our intuition and go for like what we truly want. Because no matter how far you go in the wrong profession, not that it was wrong, but you know what I mean, like,
well, the wrong one for you.
The wrong one for you. The further you go, it's never going to feel like you've accomplished what you want to accomplish, like until you are focusing on the things that make your heart sing and that you're passionate about, that you care about. That's so even the smallest success in those are going to feel far more fulfilling than the major success you would have in something else.
It's so true. It's so true. I mean, the book talks so much about this. I mean, it's such a good read if you are kind of at a crossroads in your life and you're not really sure whether it's your age you're at a crossroads or your career or a romantic relationship. I mean, it really does kind of cover all of it. And it's all coming from real experience. Like, it's a semi-autobiographical book for a reason. But it is true. It's like, sometimes you just don't know. And in the chapter 3, I really start getting into like, how do you know when to leave? Like, how do you know what to do? Like, when to throw the towel in, essentially.
Yep. And
that's a huge question. And like you just said, it goes back to your intuition and knowing how well do you trust yourself? How well do you trust your own advice and your own opinions and your gut? And in your 20s, it's hard to do that. It's hard to do. But I think the signs are there. If you're, cracking up at work and like attacking the talent, like perhaps this isn't good for you. I mean, I also had like a lot kind of going on because I had gone, I had trained my whole life to be on Broadway and then had a horrible Me Too situation in high school and then did not do that and essentially went into makeup instead as sort of a life raft because I was like, and like I finished college and I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing anymore. And it was so, like, I will never forget when I was sworn into the union or when I joined the union. I was really, really young, and which again is like such an accomplishment, by the way, because there's so many people who want to be in the union.
I've been aiming to get into the union for 3 years.
Yeah, it's very difficult. It's
take at least 5 more years.
Right, it's very, very difficult.
But continue.
Right, so it's like, not to take any of this for granted, but the point is basically like, you need to be doing what you're supposed to be doing. So as I'm getting like sworn in, I feel so bad for my younger self sometimes. Like, oh honey. But I said to the people swearing me in, they're like, I was like, well, will I still be able to do theater? Like, will I still be able to do Broadway? And they were like, oh, of course you will. Absolutely. They have tons of hair and makeup in Broadway. And I was like, ugh. Like, oh my God, what am I doing? It was truly like signing a deal with the devil in some horrible way. So it's like, if you are younger or not, and you are struggling with where you are in life, like, just, even if you don't know where you want to go with your career or your life, like, if you know that you're not where you're supposed to be because you're not flourishing and you're not happy, just, oh my God, please just start looking into anything else. Just try stuff, just try, take little classes.
Absolutely, yeah.
And see what sparks your interest, because I knew that I wanted to go back into performing, but that also took years. That's just starting to come back. And I went into producing because I was always really good at bringing shows together and people together. But, I mean, that's a whole other conversation.
Well, and I think that's what really, like, when you ask about when did you let go of your 20s and when did you stop having FOMO, I think that's really the big shift, at least for me, going from 20s to 30s, is in your 20s, you're really kind of listening to everyone else's opinions. And, especially well-meaning, elders, like our parents or other people in our lives that are trying to help, they are going to put the fear of God in you, that if you do X, Y, and Z, you're never going to make a living or you're never going to succeed. And
right.
So, I think a lot of our parents, try to encourage us to do things that feel in line for them, but is not necessarily in line for us. And so,
right.
In your 20s, you're still looking for approval. You're still looking for someone to say, yes, you're doing the right thing, keep going, or that's a great idea, I think you should go for it. And then, at some point, not for everybody, but certainly for me, some point in your 30s, you're sort of like, I don't really care what your opinion is. Like,
right.
I mean, I appreciate that you have an opinion, and I can, certainly hear your talking points or whatever, but ultimately I'm going to do what I'm going to do, and, hopefully you get on board.
I think that you're getting it right in your life when you're talking to someone and they start repeating back to you your own advice. Like, when you're like, I think I should do this, and then they're like, a little bit down the conversation, you know what you should do, and then they tell you back what you just said. You're like, yeah, I think I got it. I think I'm good.
Yeah.
That has been one of the most liberating things in my 30s, is finally being able to just be like, yeah, I'm going to make this decision on my own.
Totally.
And if I ever do ask for advice or to bounce something off you or another friend, it's because I really care about what you have to say, and I really need a little But typically, I mean, it's just so empowering.
Totally. Well, I think there's a difference. You have your close inner circle, and their opinion matters, but they also are in vibration, or whatever you want to call it, with you. And so their opinions and their things, they might show you something you didn't think of, which is good to have outside perspective, but they're not so far out of your vibration that they're like, no, I think you should be a construction worker. And, great if you're into construction, but for me, that would not fit with who I am or anything.
Right.
So they're enough in your close inner circle and vibration that they're going to give you really solid advice if you need advice. But a lot of times we're more just bouncing things off of our friends, and as a sounding board, and we're verbally processing with each other. We're not telling each other what to do. We're saying, oh, okay, so here's what you're going for. Have you thought of X, Y, and Z? And that might plant a seed of oh, that's a great idea for marketing, or this or that or whatever.
Yeah.
We're kind of adding to what you're already thinking. We're not necessarily telling you to do something you don't want to do or something you didn't think of already.
Right. Versus a parental unit who's,
don't do that, or you're going to basically live in squalor and be homeless. It's it's a stretch.
Right. Oh, man, we just, figured out the mysteries to the universe, answered all the questions.
Well, I'm super excited to listen to Chapter 3 on the way home because, like I said, I have not gone past Chapter 2 because I didn't want to spoil anything accidentally in this conversation. So, super excited. I'm so proud of you. You did such a great job.
I'm so excited for you to listen to it. I'm just glad everybody's loving it and laughing and feeling that they can relate, because, man, isn't that what life is? You just want to find people to relate to.
Yeah. Yes. 100%.
Well, thank you for coming over.
Thank you for asking me to come.
You'll be
This
here
was
so many more
fun.
times.
Yay.
All right, bye guys. Isn't that fun?